Welcome back. Alright, so I wasn't kidding about making videos in this room. This is a video topic that came up on the other channel. Somebody asked in the comments, and I thought, I can talk about it. Because it is a topic that comes up, and it's not just hockey related. So, bullying and its various forms and all of that. I know that I went through a lot of that myself. I think that some of that is to blame for me. I'm going to say that straight out. I think sometimes you can become an easier target. It's a conversation I had with my middle school teacher, one of my middle school teachers in grade 9. Although we called it junior high back then. It was junior high and senior high. But anyways, I'm so trained to say middle school now, I've kind of forgotten it was junior high, which is good because we're at a point now where if I say in junior high, people are like, in what? Yeah, what? Why is it, what? Senior high and junior? No, it's just high school and middle school. All right, fine. But all that to the side. So I'm an only child. I was raised in a home where things were dysfunctional and kind of broken. And we didn't have a lot of money. And so I was never, and it's funny because I think from day one, I perceived myself as being different from everybody else. And I think that kind of became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I would meet a group of people and think, all right, well, I'm different than everybody else here. And so I might be a little quieter, kind of off to the side, kind of with my head down. And that was one thing that the teacher in middle school mentioned. He said, you're always walking in the hallway with your head down. You are always avoiding eye contact, which has continued throughout my life, honestly. I've been told by people over the many, many years that I do avoid eye contact, because I do. It is very rare I make eye contact. Oh, I also want to throw in that this is my brand new Cthulhu jersey I got from Geeky Jerseys, because people always ask, and this is the kind of font the Seattle Kraken should have used for their numbers. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, so there's definitely, for the bullies, it's easy to figure out who you're going after. And by the time I reached middle school, I was the most unpopular kid in school. I never had a girlfriend I had a girlfriend in grade 3, I had a girlfriend in grade 4, but that was before things had really evolved to where you had the social standing of popular kids and the nerds and the outcasts. And by the time that we start getting into grades 5, 6, and 7, and of course puberty rolls along, I hit it first, so that was fun. There's nothing more fun than being in a group of kids who still all talk like kids, except you. So there were times I remember in grade 8, everybody would be talking, and a teacher would say, Shannon, shut up. And I'm like, everybody's talking. He's like, yeah, but I can hear you. Because everybody else's voice is up here and yours is down here, so you can zip it. And I'm like, okay. All right, fine. Now, also, the fact that my name's Shannon, it's a name usually associated with girls, and so I don't know that necessarily helped. I don't know that hurt either. I mean, I went to school with a guy named Leslie. I definitely went to school with other males who had female names, and are usually female names. And so I don't know but again, I don't know that it helped. I think it made it easier, but I think I was already a target. So the targeting was, there were prank phone calls, there was taunting at lockers, there was punches thrown here and there too. And there were times where I might hit back, but it was rare. Because the one thing that I understood, and the one thing that everything always gets wrong is, bullies aren't cowards. This is the thing. I was here, well, bullies are cowards. No, they're not. If I'd said to anyone, all right, I'll meet you outside after school, we'll have a fight, they'd be like, cool, let's do it. And they'd bring their friends, they'd probably all be arm in arm and just all grinning and just can't wait. Because, yeah, I could have brought my friends. We were all rather small and nerdular. And they were big guys. These were guys who, a lot of them, might have worked on farms kind of thing. And I would hear about, yeah, so on the weekend, he just picks up big old truck tires and throws them around. And I'm like, holy crap. And he wants to beat you up. Well, then he can, because I definitely don't have a chance against him. And so that's something that's out there. I had an incident in grade 10. Where I'd asked a girl to go to the prom with me. We'd been talking on the phone. We used to actually phone each other back in high school when I was in school. We would actually call on the phone. People would answer the phone, and you'd actually speak on the phone for a while. And so her and I got along really well. And I felt like, we're kind of flirting. So I was like, you want to go to the prom with me? And she said, sure. And I was like, I got a date for the prom. So I went to school and I was like, I actually have a date for the prom. And it got around pretty quick because I was a nerd, she was not. So girls in my school would be told, if they were seen talking to me, if you talk to him, that's social suicide. We will not speak to you anymore because of him. I actually had a friend who was one of the more popular girls, and she would ask the guy, she'd be like, so what is wrong with him? And she'd ask her friends, like, so what is it about Shannon that makes him just a complete nerd and you don't want to talk to him? And none of them had an answer. So I started making some inroads there in that her friends actually started talking to me and realized, oh, there's nothing actually wrong with them. And that's the thing, there's the perception. Perception is 9/10 of reality, I think is the phrase, right? So the perception was there. The gossip was awful. There was always gossip about me. There was a rumor that I had said I had slept with some girl in the school, and I was like, how did that happen? Because like anybody with half a thought would go, well, why would he claim that? I was a virgin until I was almost 26. So why would I start a rumor like that when I'm 13? What for? So it just, and it blew up, and the guy who claimed that I had started that rumor actually had a crush on that girl, and that girl and I were really clicking. So we met, we were hanging out outside of school, and he got wind of it, and so this rumor all of a sudden starts of, hey, Shannon's saying he's sleeping with her. And then I had this experience too where a girl goes, well, look me right in the eyes and I can tell if you're lying. And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I didn't start that rumor. And she goes, he's lying, knew it. I'm like, what? What do you mean you know it? What, you're a human lie detector? So that drove me nuts. But and that was in grade 8. That was where things really started, and it just snowballed from there. Because, you know, these were basically the same guys who I didn't get along with in grade 7 in elementary school, who now had a bigger group. And so they were like, all right, so we're going to pick on those guys. And there were times that I stood up for friends of mine. There were times that I didn't. There were times that I felt like a coward. There were times that I felt like, okay, it doesn't work. I remember there was one guy who came over, and this was when when they found out I was going to go to the prom with that girl in grade 10. And this guy comes over to me like, you're not going with her. And I'm like, well, she says I am. So if she says I am, I'm not listening to you. And he's like, you go, I swear I'll punch you in the face right now. And he walked off. And one of my friends looks at me and goes, you can take him. And I said, I know I can take him. I'm not worried about him. It's all of his friends back there I'm worried about. This is the other myth with bullies. It's never fair. It's never one-on-one. I would watch. There was fights that would happen. They'd leave the school ground. The fight would happen. And I would watch. And I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. So it was one of the guys who was bullying me too, and he was getting beaten up. Like, he was getting absolutely tooled by this one other guy who was lower on the social ladder. And so because he was beating up the bully, all the other bullies jumped in. And I remember saying to a friend of mine, that's why I won't fight them. It's never one-on-one. It's never fair. Because it's not like I didn't know how to defend myself. I just thought, okay, there's 6 of them. There's one of me. My friends, I love my friends. My friends are great, but we're all nerds. We're all small. None of us are athletic. We're going to get destroyed. So the idea that we would band together and stand up, like, there's no Hollywood ending. It's just not there. I know I used to love the movie Revenge of the Nerds. I now understand how inappropriate it is in many, just downright disturbing. Oh, how did he not know? How did she not know it wasn't her boyfriend? And how was she okay with it when she found out that the guy she was with wasn't actually her boyfriend? Anyways, I'm getting beside myself here. But, and I think on some level for my friends and for myself, we would watch that movie and think, man, it would be great if we could get some measure of revenge against any of them. Just any of them for any reason at all. Now, things started to change when I got into senior high. Okay, so when I got into high school, for people like senior high, there was one bully in particular. We ended up sitting together in class, and it was assigned seating. So there was no you get to pick your guys. It was assigned seating, and I could see the look on his face, like, oh, I'm stuck with him. And I didn't have that reaction. I would say hi, he'd say hi, and that was it. We'd stare straight forward. By the end of that first month, we were chatting. And it would be, so what's up? Not much. How are you doing? Not bad. And we would talk about the weekend. And of course, my weekend was made up of not doing much. But his weekends were colorful. He had stories. He had a black belt. I think it was a black belt in judo. I want to say it was either judo or taekwondo. And so guys would find out he was a black belt. And what they do is they'd invite him to a party. He'd get really, really drunk. And then they beat him up. So they could say, I beat up a black belt. And I remember hearing that and thinking, wow, and you were my bully not that long ago. And so we didn't become friends, but it got to the point where if we were passing each other in the hallway, it'd be, hey man, what's up? Not much. You know, see you in class, that kind of thing. So I was always able to, in the end, find some kind of common ground if I was one-on-one with somebody. The one exception would be in senior high. So you choose your classes, of course. Grade 11, I walk in, and art class. Now, art class was always sort of I can pass art. You just give me the easel, and I'll just paint whatever. I know they'll let me pass. I'm not overly creative. I'm not very good artistically. I can use Photoshop okay. I know people would be surprised to hear that because I don't use Photoshop for my thumbnails on the hockey channel, because when I tried, view counts dropped. They tanked, actually, when I used Photoshop. Made really fancy thumbnails. People were like, I don't know, this isn't a Shannon video. They'd be surprised. So I'm like, all right, I can't do that. But I'm not really creatively artistic that way. Now, I can write novels, I can tell a story, I can do improv. I think that's what helps me as a YouTuber. But I walked into the art class and sat down and I looked around, and I swear it had to be everybody who picked on me in middle school were in that class. And I just looked around and I'm like, no. So I went to the school counselor and I said, I can't do this. I said, I can't be in that classroom. I said, teachers come and go. They leave the room. I know those guys. I'm going to be getting punches in the back of the head. I'm going to be getting crap thrown at me. I'm going to be getting threats. I'm going to be getting my chair kicked every time they walk by, which is, I mean, it's entertaining the first 56 times, but by about time number 100, they kick your chair on the way by. It loses its feeling of spectacularness. So I knew what was coming, and I said, all right, I need to change classes. So he said, well, it's difficult because we've just started and our classes are full. I'll see what I can do. So he calls me in the next day and he says, all right, here's your options. And I think one of them was home ec. And I thought, well, I could probably learn how to cook. I cooked at home anyways. My mom was usually working until 9 o'clock at night. My dad, he ran a bar, so he wasn't home early at night either. So I was good at cooking. I knew my way around the kitchen. Still do. I'm still a good cook. But I just don't cook anymore. I just kind of stopped. I feel bad for Yvonne and the kids. I just don't cook anymore. I used to cook all the time. But that was before I watched every single hockey game all the time. But he then said to me, so, well, I have acting. And I said, yeah. And he's like, you want to do acting? And I said, there will be absolutely nobody who bullied me in school in acting class. Because I knew from when I did drama, and we would do like a semester of drama. So that was like mixed in with other classes. They wouldn't give us the whole year. And none of the guys who bullied me were very good at the drama thing, right? And especially at the improv side of things. So I walked into the acting class, and there was one of the bully's girlfriends was there. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not scared of her, right? Like, I'm not bothered by her. She used to make all kinds of snide remarks at me. She was really quite nasty towards me. But when her boyfriend wasn't around, she got really quiet. So it was more of a, if I can make him say something to me, then my boyfriend will punch him in the head. So this is great. So I just basically said, okay, you're off in the corner anyways, because she was off on her own. And I thought to myself, okay, that's fine. I'll be okay here. So they did improv the first day. I was in 2 or 3 different sketches. Everybody was laughing at the things I was doing. I fit in right away. I took to it immediately. And she looked miserable the whole time. And I came out of that class beaming. I was like, okay, that's my home. And I felt like I fit in. Like I would walk into that classroom and the other kids would be like, hey, he's here. What's going on, man? How you doing? And what was great was most of the people in that class were not carryovers from my middle school. So this was a whole different group of people. And I found out if I had a group of people who didn't know my prior reputation, I was fine. And through most of my time in grades 11 and 12, I was good. I had different groups of friends. I had different people hanging around with. A lot of the bully people who were in that art class would drop out. They dropped out. They didn't graduate. So that worked to my benefit as well. As I got older, it got better, right? And I, the acting went really well. I would get lead roles in whatever play we were doing, and things worked really well for me there. And the one thing though is I was still nervous in large groups. I would still kind of look over my shoulder at times. That never really went away. The sheer amount of bullying. I know there was an incident where I was getting ready to walk to school. This was in I think it was grade 9. And I came out my front door, and one of the bullies from my school was sitting, looking right. He was sitting on his bike, looking right at my house. So I walked up to the road, and I'm like, hey. And he goes, hey. And he rode off. And I thought, so you're letting me know you know where I live. Nothing creepy about that. Good thing that was a normal interaction. And then suddenly I didn't feel safe anymore. Like I felt like, okay, is he letting me know they're going to escalate this? Like I already knew there was prank phone calls going on. It got to the point where I wouldn't answer the phone. I had an incident where a girl phoned, gave the wrong name, told me this story of her being raped. Not kidding, okay? Details, the whole bit, and I did my best to help her out, and I was like, I cannot believe this happened to you. She told me who it was at school that had done it, and please don't tell anybody. And it was very, very convincing. I got to school the next day and found out that was a prank phone call. They were trying to prove that I was a sucker. You actually believed that? And I'm like, yeah, because, yeah, that's a really messed up thing to call somebody and pretend happened. I just, and there were other things too. There was one girl who pretended to be friends with me for months to get all kinds of information and then share it with everybody in the school. In fact, what happened was I had somebody come to me and say, you need to stop answering the phone when she calls because she's telling everybody every single word that you guys say on the phone to each other, and she thinks it's hilarious. And I thought, how, like, that to me crossed the line into evil territory, because telling somebody a story that makes them say, wow, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and then I'm going, hear that? Compassion, what a moron. Okay, yeah, no, so that's not cool. And that was something that continued even in senior high. There was one instance where a girl tried. She tried. She said, I have a friend coming to the prom, and I think you should take her. And I'm like, what? And I was like, well, I don't have a date. And she's like, well, because my friend's from, I don't know, she was from like Coquitlam or something. And she said, yeah, if you bring her to the prom, that'd be great. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, she could be my +1. Sure, I'll get tickets for myself and for her. Sure. But then what happened was a friend of mine came back to me and said, you can't trust her. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, yeah. So she's telling people that she thinks this is really funny. She's setting 2 ugly people up together at the prom. So I thought, okay, how messed up is this? She's referring to her friend as being ugly in this scenario and setting her up to go with me, referring to me as ugly, which, all right, I didn't take that much offense to because I've never thought I was attractive either. But yeah, I thought that was ugly. The difference between the middle school me and the senior high me was I confronted her the next day in class. Now, how did I get the courage to do that? Because my relatively large native friend that I had made was next to me in that class as well. And I told him before we got to class, I told him what had happened. He's like, are you kidding me? And there was a lot of like swearing in there and everything. And I said, just relax. I'll take care of it. And so I said in front of the whole class before class had started, I knew the jig was up. Everybody could hear me talking because nobody had ever seen me mad before. And I said, so it's not happening. Whatever little joke you have going on here is done. I'm not even going to the prom, so you can just forget it. Because I just decided in that moment, I'm not going. Because if I back out of this, that's it. And then I said some things about her looks that were not complimentary because she had made comments about me. And so I was like, "You're no prize pig yourself." And I went off, and my friend who's native sitting next to me, laughing the whole time, and he kept saying, "Oh man, he got you. Oh man, oh wow." The whole class was hushed the whole time, and I don't think her and I spoke to each other again after that. That was it. Because that was one of the closing lines for me to her was, "I never want you to speak to me again. Okay, you're dead to me. It's done. You're finished." And so this is where the comment could be made of, well, why didn't you do that in middle school? Because the dynamic was different. Middle school, I had, my friends, and I loved my friends, but we were all the same. We were all small. We were all nerdy. We weren't athletic. In senior high, the friends that I was making were relatively popular people. And as I found out, if you hang around with Indigenous people in school, people will kind of back off. And I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure what the fear of Indigenous people, Native, some still refer to them as Indian. They're not, but it's strange. And I noticed that right away. I would even mention that to them. I'd be like, "This is weird sitting with you guys. Like, there's people that just will not look at you when they're walking by, and they're like, yep, that's right. Yep." And it was a great experience that I got to senior high and did that. But I can say, when it comes to the bullying experience, it never really fully leaves. And so I know people will say, "Oh, it's playing the victim, playing the victim." When you go through that trauma of every minute of every day, you have to look over your shoulder. So right from when I got up in the morning, and there'd be, maybe I was having a conflict with my dad before school. That happened. I'd have a conflict with my dad when I got home from school. That would happen. I would sometimes go and stay at my grandmother's for a while because I couldn't handle being in my house. So I had that, and then I'd go to school and get terrorized all day. I would carry all of my textbooks in my book bag. I'd get them in the morning, and I would just carry. I would never go to my locker. I would not go to the cafeteria for lunch at certain times. I didn't go outside during recess because I knew I was going to get things thrown at me. I know I might get hit. And so it became, and then after school, I made sure I was the first one out of the school. I would make sure that and if I forgot something in my locker, well, I can get it tomorrow. Like, I was gone. So once you've gone through that, and for me, it was 3 years of that experience, it's always there. It's always kind of with you. And it is tough to completely 100% eradicate that experience from your life. Most of the people who were the middle school bullies, I don't have interactions with them now. There are some that I do. There are some I'm friends with on Facebook. It's not something that I've carried. I've never really had the apologies, but the last time I tried to apologize to this one girl that I was kind of a dick to in high school, in August, and she'd completely forgotten. So either she'd completely forgotten that I was kind of a prick to her, or she just thought, it's no big deal. I'm just going to pretend I don't remember, which made me feel better because I definitely carry things that I've done. I'm very good at self-blaming. I'm very good at, which I think might be partly rooted in all of the stuff that happened when I was a kid. Sort of it forms who you are as an adult. And so there are still times where I look back and I blame myself for things, including some of the bullying that I went through as well, where I'm like, I shouldn't have sat there. I should have known better. I shouldn't have said that. I should have known better. I shouldn't have. And so that can become something much bigger. So for people who might be going through something similar, and I know that bullying now, if I had been a kid in school now, like, it would have been on social media. There would have been videos all over social media. Because one thing they used to do is, and the reason that I carried my books with me all day is they would stack my locker. That's where you know the combination of somebody's locker. You open it up, you take their books, and you stack them all standing up. And then you make it so that you close the door, and then when somebody opens it, all the books fall out on them. And that happened to me a lot, to the point where I said, okay, I'm done. I would change locks. Didn't matter. Didn't matter if I changed locks. They'd get the combination. They'd use it, and that they'd be stacking it again. So yeah, I would just carry my books all day, and it was really heavy. It was kind of a pain. And then I would do my best in class, but it was a distraction. It was a distraction at times. It was tough, especially if I was in a class and I was right behind one and in front of another, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, how did I end up in this seat? This is awful. But life goes on. I've moved on, but for kids that are going through that now, I can't imagine. I can't imagine how much worse it is, and it is definitely something that can change and you can overcome it. Like I said, grades 11 and 12, I think I did my best to come out of that. But I had times in middle school where I was suicidal. I had times where I was pretty determined to just not go to school anymore and just figure something else out. And there just wasn't a solution that worked. At one point in time, my parents looked at putting me into private school, but the cost of private school was prohibitive. We didn't have money, so the private school was, I think it was $7,000 for a year, and I just there was no money to do that. And then there was the problem too that when I talked to people who went to that school, they said we got bullying problems here too, but it's different. And the fact that you would be brand new, and all of us have gone to school together for our entire lives, you would be seen as different, and you'd be an outcast there. It wouldn't be any better. The bullying would be different, but it'd still be there. So it really didn't inspire me very much there. But I came through it. Obviously now, I've got one big YouTube channel, and I've got this one as well that I do my best with when I have the time, which I very often don't. But yeah, the experience I went through in school, in elementary school, and then middle school, has it affected me? Yeah, on some level, yeah. And it's still something that, like, I have vivid memories of things that happened back then, and it definitely is something that ticks me off at times. Um, but I didn't see the point of fighting them either, because I knew that it wasn't going to be a fair one-on-one. And I know when I watched the movie Bully with my kids, and that was what, almost 20 years ago now? It was about 20 years ago. And I went to them with that, and I watched that movie. The whole time I just shook my head. And when we came out of the theater, I said, now, kids, here's the thing. When you deal with bullies, don't do anything that movie just told you to do. Do none of it. You are going to get your asses whooped so bad if you do any of the stuff from that movie. So, and it's too bad, because I went into that movie with high hopes, like, oh, this should be a great help. Let's take the kids. Then I watched it, and I'm like, oh, this movie's not made by people who've actually dealt with a group of people bullying at the same time. Like, this was just singular bullying, and I'm like, that's not how it worked in my school. It was a group, and so if you made somebody mad in the group, the entire group would be after you. And some of these guys were big. Like, the biggest member of the group, I think, was, I want to say 5'11", and had to be 250 pounds. And I was 5'4", because I was already done growing pretty early. I weighed 118 pounds through my entire time in high school. I looked emaciated. I looked like, I know people used to make comments about, does he eat? Like, what? And I ate plenty, but my metabolism was fast enough to overcome it. I don't have that problem now. I have to run 5 miles a day on a treadmill just to keep this. So, but at any rate, it was an interesting time, and I thought, sure, I can share that information with the internet. And I know that YouTube may very well demonetize this, because when you talk about this kind of thing, it can get demonetized. But it's also important to talk about it. It's one thing that I'm very conscious of with the comment section on my main channel. This is why I'm very tough on the comment section. Why, the some of the fighting that goes on, some of the comments I moderate very, very strictly, because I know I could have somebody in the comment section who's dealing with that same thing I was dealing with then, and the last thing they need is to go onto a hockey video, make a hockey comment, and have somebody bullying them on the internet, or saying something that could, really put them off watching future videos and everything. And yeah, so that's important to me. It's important to me that it feels like people are included no matter what. So that's part of the reason too why when we have meetups, we bring hockey sticks, we bring extra jerseys. And if you've never played street hockey before or floor hockey before, it doesn't matter. Here's a stick, go out and play. It's not competitive. It's just not. It's just for fun. And that's the way I've always played it back to when I was a teenager. I know that when I was in middle school, that was my one moment of solace, was that we would have floor hockey club. I think it was every Friday. And it was for 2 hours. And that was where I was. And some of my friends would play, and I was really quite good at floor hockey at that point, and it was the one thing that really made me feel better at school. My French teacher was fantastic. He ran that. He was amazing, and so that was a great experience. But there weren't a lot of them. There were not a lot of them in middle school. So I don't have any annuals from my high school experience either, because once I got out of school, I was like, I don't want to do that again. So when I hear people saying high school were the best years of my life, really? Because for me, that was a no. I was glad when it was done. I was glad when I wasn't doing school anymore. I was glad when I could go to work and get my own place, and I liked it. So that's me. But anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and if this topic interests you at all, that kind of thing. And hey, thank you guys so much for your support. I feel like the channels have really helped me out quite a bit with my mental well-being, which is something that I needed my entire life. And so I thank you guys for playing a role in that. Thank you guys again for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.